See, the music gets quieter here because we used to do a voiceover, and I used to introduce the show, and that voiceover thing might come back, but for now, you're on the line, you're watching the show. I just enjoy it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of The Sunday Show. Joining me today, the wonderful, the immaculate, fuck words today. It's already over. All right, good night, everyone. Bye. No. Welcome, Aron Ra, filling in for Matt Dillahunty, who's got a bit of a sour tum-tum today, and is joined by his own co-host. Now, what's the name of the little one on your hand here?
I don't think we found a name for this one yet. This one, I think my wife is toying with ISIS.
Okay.
Because all of our snakes are named after gods or demons.
Sure. Now, I don't know if you know, as far as branding goes, ISIS has had a bit of a rough time in the last decade. As far as I used to watch this show Archer, and the name of their organization in Archer was ISIS, and they had like a good 4 or 5 seasons where they're working at ISIS, and then ISIS happened, and they changed the name. They stopped calling it ISIS.
Yeah. So as I said, it's undecided because she doesn't want to be confused with other entities using that name.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. And this looks to me just like a normal ball python, but this is a leopard het clown. And so my wife is thinking that she puts this with her spot-nosed, I don't know, all of the different morphs on the other one that she's got, the bunch of, she's got like a 7-word name. When she puts it with that one, then she can make a Batman. Don't expect me to understand what that even means.
Sure, because I don't either. I don't get it either. I heard spot-nosed clown, and I thought of things much different than snakes. Now, you are fresh off of your trip to DebateCon, right? And I heard that yesterday you got to debate whether atheism or Islam was the better worldview. And, the assessments I heard was that you absolutely smoked the Muslim guy, but,
it depends. If you're already Muslim, then you're going to think he won, even though... Sure. To the best of my understanding, in that debate, the point was that the topic of the debate is which is better for society, atheism or Islam. And I argued that atheism, as it is not a belief necessarily, it's a lack of belief really. So if you have an atheist society, then our values are going to be humanist, and our legislation is going to be secular. So we're really arguing for secular humanism here, and so secular governments. And the opponent is just saying that atheists have no values. We have no family. We have no friends. We basically just eat each other because we have no meaning to life. And so he said that an atheist society would be one where we all masturbate in pods and eat bugs. He literally said all of that. That's what he and he said that China is our model, and that's what China is already doing. He said that they're living in pods and eating bugs, and that's going to ultimately end humanity. Interestingly, he said, because we don't prohibit like technologies like gene editing from being developed, so something that could potentially resolve congenital defects in utero. He said we should prohibit that because it might be misused. And by misused, he specifically said it might be misused to make people have 300 IQs, and that would lead to our extinction. That was his argument.
All right.
Yeah, so we would become too smart. Right, yeah. To live anymore somehow. But so his argument was that Islam was the only religion that maintains conservative values, and that's what he was trying to preserve, was the conservative value. He was arguing for conservatism. That's it.
I was going to say, is he arguing against himself? Marriage. Whose team is he on?
He argued for traditional marriage, for patriarchy, to have the man be in charge of the wife, that the women are subservient to the men, That's the conservative, that's the thing he's trying to conserve. You need Islam for that because apparently right-wing Christians don't exist.
Right.
Because only Islam has this conservative, pig-headed, bass-ackwards attitude. Yeah. So that was his argument.
Makes sense.
So I brought up, okay, so we have these countries that are, secular humanist countries. We have these secular nations not founded on any religion, that have in their, they were once religious countries, like France, for example, once very religious, once intolerable places to live. Now they're much better because they have a secular government that guarantees freedoms and equality for everybody. He doesn't like freedom. He's advocated against it. He's against freedom and he's against equality. He says you can't have it in his system. This is what Islam allows. So you're not free and you're not equal, and you can be killed for blaspheming. And this while he's simultaneously arguing for free thought and condemning atheists as being authoritarian.
Right.
Apparently everything also is liberal. So if Thomas Jefferson was, I guess he's talking about classical liberalism, if Thomas Jefferson was a classical liberal, then that means that everything the United States did in the 18th century through the early 19th century was all liberal. So all of that can be blamed on liberalism, everything the U.S. did. Liberals, he said in the debate, liberals include both the left and the right politically. Yeah.
Neat.
So he was condemning right-wing atheists.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm on the left. He says it doesn't make any difference. He just doesn't distinguish. Everything is a liberal.
All right.
Somehow.
Interesting.
And that liberalism is bad.
I mean, I've been on Twitter.
About liberalism the way we know. He's not talking about liberalism as we talk about it today.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He's not talking about what. I told him, okay, which definition are you using? He said there is only one, so I had to list three.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
small L, big L. There
are at least three different definitions we know of. So, and it turns out he's using, I think, the classical liberalism thing, which is just so inclusive that everybody's included. But so when he's arguing against atheism, he's actually not arguing against atheism. He's arguing against progress, against advances in technology. He's arguing against secularism, but he's also arguing against liberalism because he thinks liberalism is at fault for everything.
And arguing for a system which wouldn't extend to him the platform that he's literally using to advocate for it were he successful. I always notice that hypocrisy amongst him. People like Transform Wife, who's like, I'm out here to teach you all that women shouldn't be teachers. That kind of shit.
Yeah. So he did not at all argue for theism. He was arguing for conservatism. So he wants to say that Islam is better for society, but the only reason Islam is because it's conservative. I said, what's the advantage of believing things that are not evidently true? And that seemed to stump him. I said, okay, well, atheists don't believe things that are not evidently true. All religions do. Islam is a religion. So arguing for religion in general, theism in particular, what is the advantage? What's the benefit to society for believing things that are not true, and specifically for believing the particular thing that you do that is not true, Islam? Or I said, not evidently true. But, and of course, there was nothing. There's just conservative. That the only thing that Islam offers is that it maintains conservative, antiquated, backward bigotry that he mislabels values.
I feel like if you're ready to get into calls, there's a call relevant to this that's just come in.
Okay.
And I feel like you'll enjoy the interaction. I'm going to let you mostly drive it, I think. I'd love to hear this. We're going to start by talking to Adam in North Carolina. And if the screener has the notes correct here, Adam would like to make the case that all atheists are terrible at debate, and basically by doing the debate scene, they're actually doing more harm to the atheist community. Is that all correct, Adam?
That is a hyperbolic view of mine, but that's the strongest I can come out of the gate here. I can phrase it a little more softly if you'd like.
Okay.
Let's care about accuracy.
A lot of
Yeah, just as accurate as you'd like.
There are a lot of atheists that overestimate their abilities to debate and oftentimes push people further away from ever leaving their faith. And there's a lot. I think I see a lot of angry, I hate to put a stereotype, an angry non-believer who's really just kind of the angry street preacher for atheism, kind of yelling at believers. And I think in some instances, you look at them,
yeah, I know.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was really hoping for something more sensational and to be a little offended. Because I
agree with you.
Yeah, both. I literally, when people ask me hey, I just became an atheist, what's your advice for me? The first thing I say is shut the fuck up for 4 years and just listen. Because what you guys are doing in threads on Facebook is ruining people's chances at changing their mind. And you are becoming the cliche. By the way, not everybody needs this advice. Apologia probably has one of the top anti-apologetics channels or sort of counter-apologetics channels out there, especially when dealing with people like William Lane Craig, Answers in Genesis. A fucking incredible channel. And he basically started shortly after his deconversion. So it doesn't apply to everybody. Maybe it's because he had the Mennonite background, and so he was already a little bit more of a peaceful person in the first place. I don't know. But mostly I tell people to shut up and listen for the first at least few years. And recognize that the way you're trying to go and be kind of a dick on Facebook threads would have never worked on you. Even if you see like, well, but I used to engage in those and now I'm an atheist. That shit would have not worked. That specific interaction wouldn't have been the thing that worked on you.
And I want to give a huge shout out to Matt Dillahunty, who last night, and I haven't seen your debates, Aron, so I got to check those out. But Matt Dillahunty debated Kenny and absolutely ripped him apart. And afterwards, they shook hands. And I think that's what people don't realize about these debates is that Matt's able to disagree and able to say, you're wrong, and here's why, and here's the logical problems, and then shake hands with his opponent.
Yeah, well, that often depends on the opponent, because I can tell you there was a couple of people that were in the room that were not that were not arguing in good faith or in a good way. And one of the ways that you will not get a handshake with Matt is if you're
not a fan of Alex Stein?
Who? Alex who?
Are you telling me
I don't actually know the names of I don't know the names of any of the people there. Okay. I really don't.
I have to put the banner back up to remember that this is Aron Ra, so don't ask me to remember names.
Yeah, I really don't know. I didn't know the names of any of the people that were there last night. There was one 18-year-old kid, and I'm a 60-year-old man. I can call him a kid. He's barely a legal adult. Okay, but there was one 18-year-old kid there that was such a deep and cautious thinker that it just impressed me, because that's a talent I couldn't manage until I was deep into I was almost 40 years old before I could think as clearly as this kid was at 18. So I was very impressed with him. But there was a whole lot of other people that I thought you should have grown out of this 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
and they're still
well. I don't want to
young.
take too much of your guys' time, Jimmy.
Thanks.
I don't want to take too much of your guys' time, and I appreciate what you both do. And Aron, one of these days, I hope to try one of your beers. But you guys have a great evening.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you very much.
You know what? I actually appreciate what the caller just did, because I could spend the remaining hour just talking about kinds of atheists that annoy me. I really, really could. And I think it's nice that we're starting to have those conversations more. By the way, Matt is one of my best friends, and I can really frustrate the guy. And I think he would return that favor. Matt and I are very close. Return the assessment. But Matt is, I think that he and I have a similar trait in that we don't take disagreement personally, even if we get very amped up. I can be screaming. I rarely scream, but what you would call maybe the most, I can be very passionate, angry, aggressive, and then chill with about anybody. There's some limits to that, but it's mostly for like the theory of self-respect. Like, you wouldn't usually go get a drink with this person if you respected yourself. I don't, but I have to give off the image as though I do respect myself. That seems important. But yeah, I could talk for hours about the kinds of atheists and which arguments annoy me. And stop learning just the cliche arguments, because you're going to keep saying something stupid like, well, evolutionists don't say humans come from monkeys either. And then you're going to be like, wrong. One, for using the term evolutionist, and two, that argument is fallacious, which I learned thanks to this guy next to me. Shall we take a theist? I think so. Emanuel. I remember Emanuel in Texas. You're on the line.
Hello. Very good day. To call in Aaron is there.
Yeah, but it is pronounced Aron, and I think we had this before. So we're going to just correct this right at the beginning. It's Aron, not Aaron. Aron.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry. English is my second language, so
I
can't actually spell American names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can call me whatever you want. I like Cecil.
Yeah. It's just like I have like language deficiency, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you. Cool.
So in front of me, I have like everything ready because I want to like search out or like Google.
Oh man, I'm going to give you the best advice right now.
I want to know if it's
Emanuel, everything that's in front of you, close it, minimize it, or turn it over, and let's just have an honest conversation with each other where we're not trying to throw links at each other. We're not trying to throw quotes at each other. Let's talk about, in a real and personal way, why you believe what you believe versus what we believe. If you're just calling to preach, not interested.
No. I actually called in to question.
Okay. Go for it.
I don't mind if he has his links or whatever. That's fine.
I was going based on past experience with Emanuel, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this time.
Yep.
Okay. So, what I wanted to ask you was, were you didn't have like faith in God, or at some point you believed in God and now you're not believing no more?
Aron and I are different on this. I'll give you mine first. I used to believe in God with all of my heart.
Okay.
And I used to use phrases like, I know God exists. I know the church, being the Mormon church was the one I attended at the time. I know the church is true. I know so-and-so is a prophet now and so-and-so was a prophet then. I mistook my arrogant level of belief for absolute knowledge and didn't even realize that that's what I was experiencing until I had actually deconstructed and broken that down, and now can recognize that I can feel those certain ways of very confident belief and differentiate them from knowledge.
I also have to say that when I was a neo-pagan occultist and when I was having paranormal experiences doing transcendental meditation and that sort of thing, I thought this is something that everybody can do. I didn't realize that I was being deceived by faith, because faith is auto-deceptive. I thought that this is something anybody else can do, anybody could experience. And so I went around calling this the truth. People should know the truth. And now I know that, that now my philosophy is the truth is what the facts are, what you can show. And that anything that implies or that needs faith should be rejected for that reason.
Okay. Okay. I just want to say to Jimmy that, when you ask me a question and when I try to answer it, using scripture, I'm not like trying to preach. I'm just answering. So it's just like the way that I talk might be, argumentative, but my interest is not to preach at all.
The thing is, Emanuel,
I'm just telling an answer.
The thing is when you answer with the scripture, my follow-up question every time, and it was last time, and it was Matt's last time, and I think it'll be Aron's this time. If you're going to answer with a scripture, my follow-up question is going to be, why should we care what the scripture says? And so far, if I'm remembering our interactions correctly, your answer seems to be tantamount to because the scriptures say it's true. And so we can just skip all of that and go with what are the good reasons that some position you hold is true? Because it seems like when we talk, you don't even know the answers to your questions. It seems like you've decided that this book or this group of ideas is correct. And so I can ask you a question about what you believe, and you have to go find in the book what you believe because you don't even know. And that's frustrating. And so you got to answer the questions as is in good faith and let us talk to each other as humans and not try and regress into I'm not here to actually tell you what I believe. I'm here to tell you what a book that I've said I believe in says, because I don't actually know why I believe in anything besides to say that this book says it.
Yeah, but that's not the definition of preaching, by the way.
I don't give a fuck what the definition of preaching is.
The way that I understand it. Yeah, but that's not preaching. Why would you call it a preaching? It's not a preaching.
If you're going to sit here and not
out of a book.
Yeah, you're going to do that instead of answering the actual questions. And you try to you regress into that every time. And that's why it comes off as preaching, even if you feel like it's not preaching. Okay. By the way, I don't know that as a deep believer, the same way I did as a Mormon, that you even really know when you're preaching or not. Because that's another thing that religious people don't seem to get by injecting it into absolute everything, like an honest intellectual question of why do you believe that? And then you return with a scripture. It's like when a Mormon returns with buried testimony.
The preaching is a delivery of a sermon or religious address to an assembled group of people. So there's Jimmy and I, we're the assembled group, and you're giving a delivery of a religious address. Preaching.
Oh, okay.
Emanuel, are you able to isolate from the people that are in the background making noise, by the way?
Yeah, I'm actually in a public space. Just give me a second.
Yeah, if you could isolate, that'd be an improvement.
Okay. Yeah. It's because I'm in a public place.
I feel you.
Okay. I think it should be good.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
I think it should be good.
So, Emanuel, you believe in God. You're a Pentecostal. Why do you believe in God?
That's actually a very good question. So, not all of my years have I believed in him. So, the thing that I have is because of like how I see, how consciousness works. And, when we do something that we think that we regret, we feel guilty about it. And I think in this particular phase, I found my answer to it. That's why I believe.
You believe in God because you believe it answers why you feel regret.
You basically just said that you believe in God because you believe in God. You have faith. You believe in God because you have faith, which is just because you believe. You believe without a reason. So you didn't answer the question.
Oh, no, I said when I was like 14, I started like to be skeptical, I was raised, as a Christian, but I started being skeptical and I doubted Christianity and I said it was like a made up thing. So I said it was a made up thing. So I said, because a lot of things didn't make sense to me at that age. Because when you start to grow up, you start questioning the things that you are actually indoctrinated with. So I went through that phase where I doubted Christianity. I said it was wrong.
Yeah,
what caused the backslide?
Because some of the stories in the scripture didn't make sense to me.
No.
For example,
sorry. Emanuel, after that,
you started questioning what you were indoctrinated with.
Yeah.
Right, you were raised Christian. You started questioning that. You became skeptical, which is the path to knowledge. But then you backslid back into unreasonable belief. So what caused that?
It's because I feel, guilty of the things that I've done. So I started regretting things because when I stopped being a Christian or following Christianity, I fall into like lots of mistakes.
But Emanuel,
And
feeling
I felt
guilty,
guilty.
Emanuel, feeling
But-
guilty over things you've done doesn't make you a Christian or not, right? I feel guilty over some things I've done. Am I a Christian? Do I believe in God? No.
No.
So what about feeling guilty makes you believe in God? What is the connection between I feel guilty, so I believe in God? Because I don't feel guilty, and it's totally or I do feel guilty about some things, and it's totally unrelated to whether I believe in God or not.
Yeah, I think feeling guilty is part of. I think that may be part of youth. You know, I look back on the younger me, and I hate that guy.
Yeah,
there were things that I did and said and believed, and attitudes that I had, and all of the things that I was so sure about that I was wrong about. That I wish I could say that I lived my life with no remorse, but I didn't. I made mistakes that I am not proud of at all. You know, I'm glad to be better, hopefully now than ever I was. So I mean, there's always that. You can always improve, right?
Yeah.
But where does that get you into believing something like a God?
So what got me was, I was listening to, someone on I had a radio on my phone, so I was like listening to it. It was like 8 or 9 years ago. So someone was telling about, how, the prodigal son, and he went out of his father, and she was talking about how if we get back to God, we could be free from, guilty.
Okay,
guilt consciousness.
Emanuel, I think I get it. I'm going to try and propose it to you. I think I've gathered what's going on.
Yeah.
And you tell me whether or not I'm stating something that's rather correct. You believe in God. I'm going to pretend I'm you. I'm going to use I phraseology. So I'm taking on, I'm Emanuel. I believe in God because I get great comfort and validation as I receive forgiveness through the religious Pentecostal tradition for things that otherwise I would feel very guilty about and would weigh on my conscience. Is that pretty accurate?
That's a very good explanation, actually.
Yeah, I'm glad. And it was a little bit of a trap because you've been duped, my friend. That is the manipulative strategy. That is the sales pitch. That is the worst thing about religion. False forgiveness from not the parties that you've actually offended, from not the actual people you've harmed, but forgiveness from somebody who says they speak on behalf of the very entity of the universe. Now, no, I'm not mad at you for falling for it because I get it, because I've used it. The idea of forgiveness when maybe you don't feel like, one, the people that you want to forgive you would forgive you, or two, that you are too embarrassed to go and get forgiveness from the people you need to seek it from. The idea of bypassing all of that, easy to understand. But my friend, you have been scammed. This is a dupe. Because at the end of the day, the guilt that you're feeling alleviated, the people telling you that guilt should go away have no actual power to withdraw the impact of the shitty things you did. And that's what I hate about, I don't presume you've done terrible things, but I know that there are rapists and murderers and serial killers who have all found forgiveness from Jesus when they were denied it from the victims of their rape, from the families of the people they murdered, that is the worst thing that comes out of religion. Forgiveness for honestly the most atrocious things, sometimes in advance. This is why people kill in the name of religion. They're pre-forgiven for that murder. I'm glad we were able to get to what the appeal was, because I get it, Emanuel, why that appealed to you. And I want to be the person who says to you, you've fallen for a scam. Sorry, I know Aron had a thought here too. Real quick, but let Aron get his thoughts.
I never actually. Okay.
No, go ahead. He
said
let
I
you go.
never actually harmed anyone. Okay.
The problem, what I was going to bring up.
So I never actually harmed anyone.
Okay, Christianity has this is a great system for denying responsibility, just for everything. So you don't have to help anybody out when they're in need, because you can just wish upon a star that they'll get the help that they need somehow. That's what it means. Was I'll pray for you. It means you're going to do fuck all. You're not going to do anything at all. You're just going to literally wish on a star. And when you have hurt or harmed someone, I mean, there are people that have argued in court cases, like that one of the Duggar family that molested his own baby sister. He argued in court that he shouldn't be penalized. He shouldn't be, sentenced to jail because Jesus had forgiven him, which means that your magic imaginary friend, the person who lives inside your head, of course, is you, and knows why you did everything you do, and of course he forgave you. But real forgiveness, genuine forgiveness, can happen. But there's something you need for it. First of all, there needs to be an admission that you did something wrong, that you need to correct something, and then there needs to be some sort of attempt to atone for that, repair the damage, apologize to the person, show that there's some sincerity, and real forgiveness can happen. But then there's some certain other responsibilities that Christianity denies too. Like, look at the environment, for example. Christians very often say that they don't have to do anything to keep the world safe for our heirs, because there is no future for this planet. Jesus is going to come back any day now, and set everything on fire anyway. So we may as well bring as many souls as we can to the Lord. So we're just going to crank out babies we cannot feed and rape the planet, as Ann Coulter said. We're just dominate and subdue and rape the planet with a big gas guzzling SUVs with a wet bar. That's, she says, is the Christian way. But that's a denial of responsibility.
Now, Emanuel,
when you walk away from the religion, then you start getting real forgiveness, real atonement, real responsibility, and then it's much better.
Emanuel, you said in response to what I said that you've not actually harmed anybody.
Harmed anyone.
So what are the things for which you felt guilt?
Like, for example, when I was a teenager, I've watched, explicit material. You understand what I mean, right?
You were a teenager?
Yeah. So you felt guilt because you lived in a society which raised you to believe that was doing harm to you. How have you actually established that watching explicit material is wrong?
Yeah, I actually, even though I was not into, Christianity, I still used to read the Gospels and, Paul, and they were pretty much against it. The thing that
you don't even have to do that. You don't have to touch the Bible in our society. You don't have to touch the Bible in our society to feel bad for being sexual at virtually any age. But they definitely start hard on teenagers where hormones are rushing. Certainly that was the time in my life where I had the most sexual thoughts, that I was feeling the most sexual. That's where they jump in. So I'm not interested in what the rules were or that you heard it from the Gospels. How did you determine that it is actually a wrong thing? Because what you presented to me is a thing for which you said you felt guilt, and now you're feeling forgiveness for that guilt from the system that created the guilt. They made you sick and then offered you the medicine. They didn't even make you sick. They pretended you were sick and they offered you fake medicine.
That's the thing. No, but I still don't do it. It's like it's been so many years ago. Now I don't do it because it's against the faith. So the thing that
so is it wrong Bible, or is it against the faith?
In a bad conscience than I do.
Is it wrong?
I think
or is it against the faith?
Wrong.
Why?
Yes, both. Because you're actually objectifying a person doing something else. And that's not right. Respectful.
That's fair. That could also set unrealistic expectations for your sex life. I mean, porn is not for everybody. I'm certainly not going to. I'm not going to advocate for people to go watch porn. And most people don't need porn, so it's fine. It's just. I'm not. Neither am I going to say that porn should be prohibited. I'm not going to say that it's necessarily wrong. Can be. But I'm not going to say that it necessarily always is. But neither do you need it, so I'm not going to advocate for it. I'm not going to say that porn is good either. but it's largely irrelevant.
Yeah, but
We
we
were talking about why you believe in a
yeah,
God.
I didn't even start
So
watching videos.
Yeah, we'll return to the God thing. I will push back on
I just want to
the
clarify.
concept of the objectification. Objectification is entirely fine as long as it's consented to. So anybody who's consented to be in porn for consumption in that way, this is a consent issue between people. So if I become a porn star, I'm literally consenting to being objectified as people consume my material. Back to God.
Yeah, but it's not even like porn. It's like pictures and stuff. It's not like a video. It's like pictures. So people at school, they used to bring like these pictures, and we used to actually, people were like naked and stuff. You know,
porn
girls
doesn't
were
have
naked.
to
Porn can be photos.
Porn doesn't have to be video format. I mean, the first porn was all still photographs.
Right, and objectification in general only becomes a negative thing if it actually affects your interaction with a person and how you treat that person and who you think about when you're alone and doing whatever. None of that matters unless it affects the way unless you objectify the person basically to the person. But again, let's return to the God thing, because we're going down this hole of guilt stuff. Again, basically you've in falling for the first scam that we revealed to you, this is your second one. They convinced you were sick and then sold you a medicine you didn't need in the first place and then called you healed on the other side. But let's get back to God and why you believe in God.
That's not accurate, though.
It is, but let's get back to God. Well, I'll say you disagree with my assessment. I disagree with your assessment of my assessment. Now let's get back to God. Why do you believe in God?
Okay. I've already answered that, I guess. It's like, I feel like there's like some higher thing that is like a
let me put
I feel like I'm
different way.
Okay.
So God is a supernatural thing. Basically, that means magic. God has the ability to control everything that ever happens. What?
Totally incorrect. God is a title. It's not a person. God is not a title. God is a title. It's not a person. God is not a being. God
title
is a title.
You're a Pentecostal, and you're saying there's not a literal being God?
No. What I'm saying is, for example, Jesus in the New Testament is referred as God. And God has called us, gods in the Old Testament. So God is a title. When I say this is the president, president is a title. It's not his name.
How many beings hold the title God?
So there's not a God?
Just one spirit. No, there's a spirit. God is a spirit. So we call the spirit
there is a God. A supernatural being such as exactly what I just described.
Yes.
Okay. So what?
Okay.
So we didn't need to go down that tangent at all.
It's just like people think that God is a person. Like there's like a person called God, but the actual thing is in the New Testament. That's why we believe in Jesus Christ, because his name is revealed in the New Testament. So that's why, Scripture says that this is the only name which we are saved, and there's no other name to be saved. So Jesus
Have you ever
Christ
read the Old Testament?
The name of God.
There are other names in the Old one.
Yeah. So God is revealed as Yahweh, Jehovah, Elohim. They have different names, but God told Moses. Yeah, but God told Moses that this name is yet to be revealed. Okay.
And so all of these are for this supernatural entity who can supposedly wish things to poof out of nothing and can also control everything that ever happens somehow. Whether you're going to win the big game, whether you find your keys, God wills everything to happen.
Yeah.
Like he's the script writer and we're just the actors in the play. So the reason that you believe that is because you watched porn?
No. That's not the reason why. I said there's different things, like when I disrespect my father and mother, or, you know, when I be prideful, when I'm not loving someone else.
How does disrespecting your father and mother imply that there is a magical being who controls all reality?
No, I said I feel the guilt in different things, not just this. I just use explicit material as an example, but that's not the only thing.
How does having guilt imply a magical being that controls reality?
No, I'm not saying it's the evidence of it. I'm saying the reason I got back to Christianity was because I think I had the solution, because I actually got freed from it. So when I became Christian, I started obeying my parents. I started living a holy life. You know, I stopped cursing out on people and all of it.
Okay, so when you didn't believe, you got guilty, so then you started to make believe, and then you're not guilty anymore. My question, Jimmy's question, both of our questions had nothing to do with any of that. It's what makes you believe there is a magical, supernatural entity that controls reality?
Oh, okay. So I have one life moment when I actually prayed for someone and he told me that he saw the Lord, for example.
Somebody else saw the Lord and now you believe in the Lord? Is that what you said?
No. What I'm saying is that's like an evidence, because Jesus said that this sign shall follow them. They speak in different tongues. They heal the sick. You know, the Holy Spirit will manifest in different ways.
Get back to the who got shown the Lord.
So one time I was actually teaching from the book of Acts chapter 2. I never actually saw the Lord before, or it's never been revealed to me. But I felt the Spirit to lay my hands on him. When I laid my hands on them, they were falling out. And they told me that they saw the Lord after like a month.
So somebody told a month after you put your hands on somebody when you were preaching from Acts, a month later they told you that when you put your hands on them in this charismatic Christian situation, that they saw the Lord. And how did you verify they saw the Lord?
They saw the Spirit of God moving.
Wait, which one? The Lord or the Spirit of God? Is that the same thing to you?
They're a very... it's the same thing. So Father, Son, and Holy Spirit is the same Spirit. That's why Bible says that we have one Spirit.
Okay, you don't go back to the story. You said yes. How did you confirm?
Okay.
You believe this on his word. I assume you said that you know skepticism now. You have become a skeptic. You did something to confirm the truthfulness of his claim, right?
No, I did not do that because I know the person was honest. I know him.
No, you don't.
You don't know that like a kid.
Okay, let's say the guy was honest. How did you confirm that he's
known each other for a very long time?
How do you know he saw what he thinks he saw?
Because if you see God, you know, it's like there are different things. There are different signs that confirms it. For example, he started, you know, casting out devils, and he starts speaking in different tongues, and all of it. So all the signs were revealed.
You have fallen deeply for a scam. That the problem is there are conflicting religions who can present to you the exact same experience that you've just described. Not all of them even Christian, but can give the exact same experience and the exact same story. And at the end of the day, Emanuel, I talk every week at this point to somebody with stories like this, and they can't all be true because they have different belief systems. So how do I verify that you're right versus anybody else?
Actually, you can't verify. I don't think you could verify it because I can't verify it either. So I think the thing is, since I
Aaron, you're
believe
muted.
that the scripture is true, I could actually see whether it's okay. I'm sorry.
No. Sorry, Aaron was muted.
Let me jump in with something, if I may.
Yeah.
Jimmy and I were talking about this just before we started recording. You've heard of the Beatles, right? The rock and roll pop band, the Beatles. You've heard of them, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The guitarist for the Beatles, George Harrison, is famously quoted by a bunch of IceCon preachers here in the United States. He said, "If there's a God, I want to see him. It's pointless to believe something without proof, and Krishna consciousness and meditation are methods where you can actually obtain God perception. In that way you can see, hear, and play with God. Perhaps this may sound weird, but God is really there next to you." Now, George Harrison and John Lennon both used to say that Lord Krishna, the Hindu god Lord Krishna, would physically appear and talk with them. Do you believe them?
Absolutely not.
Then why should we believe you?
You don't believe them. They're famous people on public record who said this as public statements on TV and news, but you believe your friend. Why?
Yeah, because what my friend said didn't contradict what the apostles have said, but they're
so you believe the Bible.
What the apostles have said.
You believe the Bible because you believe the Bible. So that's what it is. You just, whatever that comes out of the Bible, you're going to believe that. Doesn't matter what else.
Yeah, buddy, you just described the problem with confirmation bias. You've started with your belief, and you will embrace anything which seems to confirm the belief and dismiss anything else, even though they are as good as each other as far as your standard of truth goes. Any faith-based claim is as good as any other. So you're going to go with anything that you like about the one that you've chosen. Anything that makes that seem more reasonable, you keep, and anything that challenges it, you dismiss.
Now, likewise, in Hindu, or at least
in the
Bhakti, in the Bhakti subset of Hinduism that we call Hare Krishna, they have a book called the Bhagavad Gita, which is really just one chapter of a larger Hindu book, the Mahabharata. But anyway, the Bhagavad Gita, this one book that they worship, is the same thing as your Bible in the respect that they declare it to be infallible, the absolute word of God. Do you believe them?
No. By the way, I just want to say,
why?
I'm not American, just so you know. So I'm not from.
Why?
No, I'm not American.
No, but that doesn't matter.
I actually came very recently. No, I didn't came
totally
from where
irrelevant.
Christianity was very popular. That's what I want to say.
The Beatles aren't American.
Okay.
Christian is not American. Nothing we're talking about is necessarily American.
From.
Yeah. So that, but the Hare Krishna cult.
Yeah, but we're like a minority.
The Bhagavad Gita is the absolute truth and the revealed word of the one true God. Do you believe them?
Yeah.
You do believe
No, I don't believe that. I absolutely don't. And they don't have a proof.
Why not?
And they don't have
because they don't have a proof.
What proof do you have, my friend?
Yeah.
They have proof. George Harrison says that if you meditate on Krishna, you can physically see him. How is that not proof? You said that your friend told you a hearsay account. Your friend said that he saw God. Well, here's George Harrison saying that he sees God whenever he wants to.
Emanuel, I'm going to give you this because we've taken this call too long. So we're probably going to hang up because I doubt you're going to satisfyingly answer this, but I'm going to try. And if we can't get anywhere with this, we'll try it again another day. You say they don't have proof. You're implying that you do. What proof do you have that meets a higher standard than their hearsay accounts, than their firsthand accounts, than what they have said they've seen, what they say they feel, they say they experience? What proof do you have that are none of those examples that you can provide for us?
Yeah, we have a historical evidence where the apostles actually died a very brutal death. So I think that could be an evidence that
even if
they were actually sincere.
Yeah, we are going to let it go here because what you just described is nonsense. Your proof that God exists is, let's say what you just said was true, because it's not entirely. All that you would have proof of is that the quote-unquote apostles died brutal deaths. We have a ton of proof that Joseph Smith died a pretty brutal death. That doesn't make Mormonism true. It doesn't make God true, despite their martyrdom.
No.
At all. So all you've given, even if you have proof of an apostolistic death, even if you had proof that Jesus Christ existed and healed the blind, you still wouldn't, if those were the only things you had proof of, you still wouldn't have proof he was the Son of God. You need to learn what proof is, my friend. And by the way, you don't have the heal the blind proof.
I need to read you a quote from a post from Madhuvisa Dasa Swami, July 14th, 1995. He said, what Krishna said 5,000 years ago in the Bhagavad Gita has stood the test of time. You can read it today and it is still perfectly valid. Your scientific theories may come and go, but the absolute truth will not change. You believe him? He's making the same argument you are for a book that was written centuries before yours was.
And was plagiarized by your book.
Yep.
But
no, but I
don't hold to argue.
You have a historical tradition.
That's fine. To tell you the truth, Emanuel, I didn't take your call in the hopes of arguing with you. I took your call in the hopes that you would offer proof. And you've just suggested you had proof and that it was distinct and superior. Wait, Emanuel, that it was distinct and superior to the types of proof other people offer for the same things the things that you agree aren't true. So here's what we're going to do, Emanuel. We're going to leave it here and you're going to ponder the question, what proof do I have? One moment. You're going to ponder the question, what proof do I have that isn't the same proof Mormons and Hindus and everybody else offers? And you're either going to call back next Sunday with Matt and I, or you're going to call back, I think it's going to be December 5th, but I have to confer with Aron. But Aron will be hosting an episode of Skeptalk on this very channel, possibly December 5th. Well, you'll see the schedule when it comes out, and you'll either call back and talk to me and Matt, or Aron, and if, right now there's no plan for me to be on with Aron, but if Aron invited me, of course I would do it. That's when you're going to call back with the proof that is distinct, that is as superior as you presented. All right, Emanuel?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You're great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
This was mad.
That was very fine. Thank you.
I was getting to this place where I was going to pop, but I didn't pop. But we have 3 more theists on the line. However, in about an hour from now, Aron and I are going to be on another show on Aron's channel. It is called Joseph's Myth. It's a pun that I didn't get for the first few weeks, where we read the Book of Mormon and we break it down with other ex-Mormons. And so I definitely want to see everybody there. We'll make sure, I'm sure Ahmad will start putting the link in the chat. If you actually just leave this window open, when we end the stream, it'll take you there. But we do have 3 more theists. And I say, we get to them calls.
Let's jump into it.
Let's talk to Pierre Charles. Is that how this is said? Pierre Charles, is that your name?
Yes. Do you hear me correctly?
Yes, I do. I love this French Quebec accent. I'm a big fan. Hello.
Sorry, I don't speak a perfect English, but I try.
We'll give you the time you need.
Most Americans don't either. It's okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Okay. So what I have to say is in 2 parts. First part, since I was about 15 years old, I believe that extraterrestrials scientifically created life on Earth. So that's the first part of what I will talk. And the second part is that I finally came to the conclusion that the Elohim of the Bible was in fact a race of extraterrestrial, or I mean an extraterrestrial civilization. So before I go any further, I will tell you, is it possible to reproduce scientific creation of life in laboratory?
Oh, I see.
Do
I
you
see where you're
know-
going. Look, here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to ask you for your good evidence of that. Don't give evidence like, because we don't know the exact abiogenesis event, because scientists can't do such and such, when in fact, one, you might not know what scientists are capable of, and two, you certainly don't know what we're capable of in the future. I will tell you, Pierre Charles, despite the fact that you're marked as a theist, I am at least relieved that you have a naturalistic belief, because technically this doesn't need to be supernatural, and I hope you stick to that. I just don't have a reason to believe this belief that you have, in the same way that I don't have a reason to believe in God. But at least in a materialistic universe, everything you've just described is at least possible to have happened, though it wouldn't speak much for the origin of that civilization or the civilizations which came before them. It wouldn't tell you anything about them. And this is a little spoiler alert on what some of the follow-up questions are going to be to your assertions. But I think we are on the edge of our seats here to ask you, what is the evidence that an advanced civilization is responsible for the seeding of life in our world how many million years ago is that now?
The earliest fossil evidence we have is 3.8 billion.
Yeah. I thought it was 4.5. That must have been when the moon, I don't know. Anyway, something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pierre, go ahead.
Okay, so my answer is a little bit like reverse engineering. If do you know Greg Venter?
No.
Greg Venter is a scientist.
Aron knows.
Yeah.
Aron does, but just proceed.
I've done a lot of study on.
Okay.
I've done a lot of study on different papers that were published on origin of life research, and Craig Venter's team is usually involved in a lot of those. Although Sutherland and a number of other teams are picking up the slack. So, in your earlier question about how life originated, this is a multi-stage sequence. I could give you literally dozens of different independent studies that talk about different aspects of that show natural processes for generating abiotic proteins, or for the autocatalysis of RNA, or for the synthesis of RNA through Montmorillonite clay, or there's a number of other things. I mean, like I said, to give you literally dozens of scientific studies to show different aspects of how life came about in a multi-stage sequence.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that Greg Venter is not waiting for it to happen by chance. He's synthesizing DNA molecules to create new life form. It's not science fiction. He's doing it right now.
Right.
Look, I get it. Pierre.
It's not
Pierre.
even a question. It's possible to create
Pierre.
life in laboratory.
Pierre, I totally get what you're saying. This is why I don't dismiss the possibility that we're all living in a simulation, because we already simulate life, and presumably these simulations will get more advanced. And one can even argue that once they get as advanced as our current universe is, if they can get that advanced, if they can simulate universes, the mathematical probability that we live in a simulation goes up dramatically. I don't dismiss this possibility. However, I don't embrace it as true either, because I don't yet have a good reason to believe it's true. And even with that mathematical probability, we haven't reached that yet. So
yeah,
I want to know, why should we think that because we right now could send DNA to another planet, or we could send some organisms to another planet, and presume that eventually that life billions of years later would spring into other life? Why should we believe that that is our origin that happened some 4-ish billion years ago?
That's, like I said, that's an hypothesis. So it's not proven, but my hypothesis, I think, is quite strong, because if we can do it, it's possible. I don't say
here's what I'm going to challenge you on.
But I say it's possible that it happened for us in the past.
Sure. And so we are gonna move on, because if we're just presenting a hypothesis, this isn't the hypothesis show, and I can't think of a bigger waste of time.
Let me address
I'd like to finish with something.
Two things you need for a hypothesis. One is you need supportive evidence. You don't have it. Two is you need to have some way of falsifying that hypothesis. I don't think you have one. And the third thing, which you have failed to address, is that if our planet was seeded by extraterrestrials, you haven't addressed the fact that we know through Craig Venture's studies, through Sutherland studies, and a number of other teams, they have shown natural processes for all of these developing portions of life, so that we know that life can develop naturally. We don't need space aliens, and the space aliens do need the natural process, because where did they came from? That they, at some point, you keep pushing the clock back. At some point, some ancient civilization had to have started from a naturalistic process. We already have that on this planet. No need for aliens, and no evidence of aliens either, and no way to disprove aliens either. Okay, so you don't have a hypothesis.
Okay, I'd like to finish with one thing. This is more like what I call the test of the prophet, Deuteronomy 18. 22 or something like that. So the test of a prophet is that there's a man living on earth presently who is predicting that aliens will land on this planet, those who created us, before 2035. So this is on record, and we will see if after 2035 they have arrived or not, and we'll be able to say if Rael is a true prophet or not.
Yeah, Pierre, call in then.
Remember 2011, May 21st, 2011? Do you know what happened then? Harold Camping, leader of this...
I think it was, perhaps it was the end of the world.
Pierre, wait.
Right.
Pierre, wait.
He said that the world was going to crack in half. There was going to be this huge earthquake. It was going to end civilization as we know it. And all of that, basically the world was going to end. People who believed in him murdered their own children in order to save them from Satan. And this is not just one person. There was a few of them that did this. There was one guy that gave away all of his money and stood in Times Square because he's expecting to see this earthquake at exactly 6 p.m. Eastern time, and it didn't happen. And a man who is now in his 60s and is now broke because he gave away all his money is realizing that he's also been duped because the world didn't end. But the funny thing is, Harold Camping was still writing things in his ledger. He was still planning meetings and such for after the end of the world. And then when they hit him with this, when they confronted Harold Camping on this, they said, hey, you said that the world was going to end yesterday, and it didn't. And he said, oh, but it did. It just happened spiritually, so you didn't notice it. So when 2035 comes along,
so
and this,
that's okay, but I'm not speaking about the...
Pierre,
when 2035 comes along, if there are still believers in this prophecy, they're just going to make up an excuse to justify why it didn't happen.
I'm going to try and do this in the least rude way possible. Pierre, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to wrap up and then hang up, because if I'm being honest, I'm bored.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to say I'm not speaking about the end of the world. I'm just speaking about the arrival of extraterrestrials, and this will be physical, not spiritual.
15 more seconds.
I want to say that that's okay. So I thank you. I was happy to speak with you, Jimmy.
Thanks,
I watched many of your videos. I don't know if you read my emails, but that's okay.
I don't know if I read your emails either, but maybe we'll talk in the future when you have, if you want to call us with a claim, call with the good reason that we should believe it too. That's the rule. We'll talk to you later. All right. I suddenly heard my own voice. You weren't pulling me up over there, were you? Horrible.
Nope.
Horrible.
Well,
as much
you
as
might have heard your own voice. I don't have earbuds in right now.
Oh, I see. As much as people believe I love the sound of my own voice, truly what I love is a captive audience. My own voice I could leave totally behind.
Yeah. If you're hearing your own voice, I'm going to see if I can find my earbuds.
It was only for a moment. We've now got Stephen in Europe, a theist who is a I don't even know what this word is. Cosmopsychism? Is that right, Stephen?
Yes, yes.
Let's hear it.
Well, just wanted to put it out there. It's an interesting new theory. I mean, it's not that new. It's been like years. I'm guessing a lot of the audience here is interested in like things like philosophy of science, and that's the field that this view is spreading in. So, like, I don't know. I'm supposing, for example, that you guys heard of panpsychism, the view.
Panpsychism?
I've heard of it, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, it's like in philosophy of science. So, like, it's about how to explain what's the fundamental nature of physical stuff.
I got it. So just a shorthand here for everybody listening. Just the first Google result says panpsychism is the view that all things have a mind or a mind-like quality. I imagine this has to do with those sort of like, we all have this sort of universal collective that we're all tapping into consciously.
Yeah, what that connects to is kind of like the earliest of all religious beliefs, which was animism, where that they thought that everything, including rocks, had a spirit.
Yeah, it's also part of certain Greek philosophy and Buddhism.
Yeah, I would just say that like neither panpsychism nor cosmopsychism, which is basically kind of a subset of it or like a development of it, neither of them are supernaturalists. They're totally naturalist theories within philosophy of science. So they don't claim that anything exists apart from like particles and like matter forces and like their properties.
Right.
You know?
I am aware, though, that, for example, when you get people who are more theistic-like, even in Buddhism, even if you can't call them theists, but theistic-like, while they don't make supernatural claims, they may make extravagant claims about what they believe is happening in the natural universe that similarly doesn't have any evidence. I've heard naturalistic explanations, for example, for reincarnation, just without a single shred of evidence that that's occurring at all.
I mean, if I could, maybe I could take 1 minute or two to try to explain it quickly, how this developed. Like,
I'm more interested in why we should believe whatever you're calling to propose to believe. I don't really care about the history or anything.
Well, yeah. That's what I meant. I didn't mean like historical overview. I meant like argumentatively.
All right. So to be clear, you believe in cosmopsychism, which is the idea that the universe itself is conscious, correct?
Yes.
And this is a concept larger than the idea that the universe has become conscious when conscious beings naturally arise in the universe. So for example, I could say, of course the universe is conscious, I'm part of the universe, and therefore I am the universe consciously perceiving itself. We're not just doing a philosophical argument like that, right? We're talking about something grander, that the universe as a whole is a conscious entity. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
Because I just don't want to be bored again. So go ahead then with your proposal of how we can test that is true and see for ourselves that is true, which is what I presume you're offering.
Well, I would first need to make a caveat for that. So these are philosophy of science gives metaphysical propositions of metaphysical explanations, such as, I don't know, physicalism is a metaphysical view, and like emergentism is another metaphysical view. Neither of them can actually be empirically tested. They're more just like philosophical explanations for the empirical data that we have.
So is whether a person's going to believe it, essentially, does that break down to when somebody reads this explanation or hears this explanation, their bosom may swell up with interest and excitement and feel very attached to it. And that's going to determine whether a person believes it or not whether or not they've been given a good reason that would satisfy a skeptic. Because it just sounded quite a bit like you were saying, I can't satisfy skepticism, but I can make it sound cool.
I would totally disagree with that. I would say no, but like I know some people, for example, reject philosophical arguments as valid, and they would say either something needs to have empirical evidence or either it's just feelings and random assertions. But I would say that, like, and most philosophers, including philosophers of science, would say that's not the case. They would disagree with that and say that we can give philosophical evidence for different, like, metaphysical theories.
Yeah, I've seen William Lane Craig attempt as such. I'm a skeptic. Aron's a skeptic.
No,
Can you satisfy either of us, with evidence that would appeal to a skeptic of the cosmo-psychism worldview?
Well, I would think that almost all philosophers of science are skeptics. None of them believe in supernatural things or like in bodiless minds and souls and like miracles.
I wouldn't say that. I've talked to a number of scientists who are Christian.
Sure, I'm discounting people who have motivations from outside the field, like.
So let's go back to my question. Do you have evidence which can satisfy skeptics, materialist, naturalist, like the two in front of you? Or do we have to do a word game and keep sort of mentioning other philosophers who would disagree? And can you appeal with this cosmopsychism worldview to either Aron or I with skeptic worthy evidence?
Sorry, I didn't, like, I don't know if I cut out or this program is cutting out.
I don't know either. I hear you perfect. I basically I just restated the same question.
I didn't hear the end of the sentence.
The same question. You know which show you called, and you know who you're talking to. I'm just going to make it simple.
No, sure. Again, I think that answer depends on whether you find philosophy of science interesting or valid. Like,
the philosophy of science, or did you say philosophy or science?
Philosophy of science, yeah.
Which, by the way, I think most people consider them the same. But are you suggesting you have scientific evidence of cosmopsychism?
No, philosophy of science.
Yeah, he has arguments, not evidence.
Yeah, I'm not interested, buddy. I'd rather argue the Kalam with a Christian, honestly. Do you want this, Aron? I mean, if you want to take it.
No.
It's call in when you have a good reason we should believe it. That clearly this is a show for skeptics, humanists, materialists.
It's basically like a Kalam, like.
Yeah, I'd rather do the Kalam. I really think. But yeah, that's the Kalam. The thing, the reason why I'd rather do the Kalam is because it's the one I've done more, and I'm going to explain to you not what's good or bad about the Kalam, why arguments like the Kalam are stupid and unappealing. And so it would just be the same experience, I think. It wouldn't actually be engagement with the Kalam itself, but the concept of engaging with such a pedantic method of argument, I'm afraid. So, Stephen, if you get some good scientific evidence, something that
can I just say on the finishing, like to ask, like, do you are either of you committed to some theories such as physicalism, ontological theory? I mean,
I'm committed to nothing, but I adopt that which can be proven true.
Yeah,
all my beliefs are changeable.
Beliefs. I prefer not to believe in things. You know, I mean, I will believe in some ideals, perhaps, but I don't have beliefs in the same respect that a religious believer does. I will accept what is indicated until I realize that it's not really indicated sufficiently.
So basically, you don't have views, for example, on what's called the hard problem of consciousness.
I see what you're trying to do.
I do have views.
He's trying to trick us
on that.
He's trying to trick us to doing the thing he already wanted to do.
Yeah, David Chalmers, who came up with the hard problem of consciousness, made a critical error in his description of it. It was the assumption that you either don't have consciousness until you get so many neurons and then suddenly a flip is switched and then you have consciousness, so that it's either or. You have 0% or you have 100%, and that's the ultimate failure. I also had an interview with neurophilosopher Patricia Churchland on this very subject. on this very guy and his argument. And the another critical problem that he has on this is that there are organisms like protists. There are protists that demonstrate a degree of consciousness. It's very, very small, but they do have an awareness of their environment and their surroundings, that they have a fight or flight response when they're in trouble. These are animals, or they're not even animals. These are microbes. That's what
it's like to talk about.
Yeah, these are microbes that don't have neuron 1. They are single-cell units, but that doesn't go to panpsychism, because panpsychism implies that rocks have a spirit too. Rocks don't exhibit any ability to understand their surroundings like protists can.
Stephen, I commend you, because you did manage to trick us for at least a moment to engage what you were trying to get to engage. Here's the deal I'm going to offer you, Stephen. If you can get 5,000 people to pledge to watching live if we host a philosophy night on the line, I'll do it, even though it will undermine my ability to get an erection for a month. All right. Thank you, Stephen. All right. It's moving right along. It might be worse than a month. I don't know. I do want to hit these. We've got to go soonish because we do have that show coming up. How much time do you need to prep Joseph Smith?
I need at least 30 minutes to get out of the invitation for everybody.
Got it. Okay. So we'll try
I could shave that down a bit.
All right. So anybody who's on the line on hold right now who is an atheist call, we'll take you another week. I'm going to see if I can't get, I kind of want to get both of these in, but let's try let's see what we can do here. We got Charles from Canada. Charles, we got to go a little bit quick here, so go ahead and propose to us your thesis.
Yeah, hey, I called in last week and I spoke with you and Matt, and he kind of dodged the question, but I think it's a really important one. It's about the origins of water.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah, I do. Anybody who watched last week will understand why I just hung up, because I'm not doing it again. I can't. It was so dishonest. It was such dishonest bullshit, and it was the same proposal this time. Last week was the proof that water came from the firmament is that there is water, and there's water in the atmosphere. Didn't know how to. We'll have to take you another night. I don't want to waste time on that. Jesus
That exact
Christ.
argument came up. That exact argument came up yesterday at DebateCon, where there was a Muslim arguing that the existence of water proves Allah, because the Quran says that God made water. Water exists, therefore Islam is true.
Yeah.
So is our caller arguing that Islam is true?
Maybe, but I hung up. Charles, we might take you. Look, here's the thing, Charles. The main reason I hung up is actually that we're short on time, and I'd rather take the other call than relitigate what you're saying was Matt dodging. When I was there, I know he didn't. Maybe we'll take you a different time, but I just can't with you, Charles. I just can't. So let's talk instead to Elizabeth in Florida, a theist from Florida, who doesn't like the equivocation of magic and supernatural divinity, as Elizabeth is both a Catholic and a magician. Of course, Elizabeth, I assume you know when we're using the word magic in that way. First of all, I used to be a magician. Matt Dillahunty still is a magician. In no way are we suggesting that to be a magician is actually to practice some supernatural thing. It's all sleight of hand.
You're talking about stage magic. Am I understanding that correctly?
Are you suggesting you're a different kind of magician?
Right. A ceremonial magician.
What is a ceremonial magician?
So, for example, like you're probably familiar with the story, the three magi who, well, we actually don't know that it was three, but traditionally we say that the three magi who visited our Lord at his birth, they were from the east, so they were from the quote unquote the magician religion. Now, I mean, modern day magicians. You're
talking about people that are. that are commonly ascribed. Oh, excuse me, I was muted there. You're talking about the three representatives of Zoroastrianism. That what I've heard from biblical scholars is that the three magi are supposed to be representatives of Zoroastrianism, who supposedly visited Jesus, because Zoroastrianism was at the time a prevalent religion to the east, meaning Persia.
Right. So I don't come from that particular order. We don't trace our
well,
lineage
they were
back
called
there.
magi,
But,
and practice of their religion was one of the words for magic. But though that's not when I'm talking about magic. When I'm talking about magic, we're talking about supernatural things, miracles and magic. Like when I say magic, I mean like what Obi-Wan Kenobi or Spock or Gandalf do. The spells, the manipulation of the supernatural that you would see Gandalf do, right, in Lord of the Rings. That's what I mean by magic. I don't mean pulling a rabbit out of a hat. I don't mean sleight of hand. This is what we all understand magic to be. This is what illusionists on stage in Las Vegas are pretending to be. They're pretending to be capable of things that Gandalf can do in the movies. And miracles and magic have essentially the same definition, and things that everybody universally accepts as magic. Things like curses.
You still there?
Yeah, we're here.
What? Yeah,
yes,
a positive magical
okay?
enchantment. Yes, a positive magical enchantment would be like a blessing. A negative magical enchantment would be a curse. Both of which occur in the Bible. The golem spell by which Adam was created, this, according to rabbinical scholars, this is the golem spell, which was traditional Jewish magic. So, I mean, the Bible is full of wands and necromancy and all kinds of magic spells are in the Bible. So I just call it magic. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, Elizabeth, give me an example of a very brief example, a quick one, like you're trying to tweet it. Give me an example of magic you perform.
Magic that can be performed?
No, magic that you perform. Magic that you do. As a magician, what's something that is magical which you do?
To be honest, I don't practice it that much because, like I say, I'm a Catholic.
Okay, so when you do practice it, give me an example. Just the question.
Sorry, you cut off there.
When you do practice it, you said you don't practice it that much. So in the past when you've practiced it, or current day when you occasionally practice, just give me an example of what you're describing, what you're saying is magic and some kind of magic you've done.
Well, like I say, ceremonial. So there are ceremonies that that people who are ceremonial magicians partake in. So there's a liturgy in a sense like you might see. And I mean, obviously, as a Catholic, there's a lot of liturgy in that, but it's done in a different way with different names and that sort of thing. I'm not necessarily.
Are you going to give me an example of magic?
To discuss everything. What's that?
Can you just give me an example of magic, though? Anything that you're saying doesn't fit our supernatural thing. Just anything.
Well, like I say, it's like I'm drawing a distinction between the two. So I'm saying when people practice magic, as a member of that community, I can tell you that what they do based on thelema, or we might say in English, will, versus in Christianity, our we say it's a function of logos. So, for example, going back to the creed, we say we believe in one Lord, Jesus Christ, yada, yada, yada. Through him, all things were made. So we believe that is the functional means of creation is through logos. Or, it's translated as words.
I'm going to try one more time because this is really getting very frustrating. Sure. So you've said it's a lot of ceremonial magic. What is an example of a ceremony, a magical ceremony that you do, and what is the purpose of that ceremony? Don't go into long detail. Say it's a ceremony to turn everyone invisible. Say that. I know that that's an extreme example. Just give me an example of this magic that you're performing. Because this has only been out of curiosity.
Well, that's helpful.
I think you think I'm trying to trick you.
I didn't know what you meant.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't understand the question. I appreciate the example because I understand better now.
Sure.
So the magic that I've seen practiced the most, I would say, is something called the Gnostic Mass. And as you said, the purpose, or what is the outcome of that, I would say, is to build community. And also to, I guess you would say, introduce people to the mysteries.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you gave the notes correctly to our screener, you accused us of equivocation when you have a special use definition of magic. Do you understand that actually, if equivocation has occurred, it's much more likely to have happened in your camp than ours, as we have several traditional definitions that we can go with. Maybe I'm wrong. Did you use the term equivocating when you said when you spoke to the screener?
I object. If y'all were not equivocating, then fine. But maybe I should say I would like to be I was just trying to find something interesting to say that y'all would want to talk about. I mean, I could just come on here and say, like, I'm a Catholic, and y'all could be like, well, why do you believe in God? And I'd be like, it's not that kind of belief. And you'd be like, yeah, we know, but what about the teacup? And I'd be like, no, that's not what I mean when I say.
Yeah, you're nailing it. That's exactly how that interaction would have gone. So basically, the screening note I have is that you object to the equivocation of supernatural divinity and magic. Was that what you said to the screener?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's what my topic says.
Okay, so you're wrong. We didn't equivocate. Magic does have a supernatural definition. You have a special use that maybe fits the definition. Fine. Let's be careful with throwing around equivocation. When you call back next week, tell us the good reasons to believe in Catholicism. Okay, Elizabeth?
I'd be more interested in hearing the good reasons to not.
Oh.
Or better yet, the good reasons to believe in something else. How about that?
I would love to have a Catholic give me a good reason not to believe in Catholicism.
I actually think we can probably satisfy both.
Absolutely.
Right now, we're getting close to that where Aron will only have about a half hour if we let him go soon. I suspect that whether you call back when Aron's on, whether you call back with me, whether you call back with Matt, that actually specifically if you ask, why not believe in Catholicism? If you're willing to tell us why we should.
What should I believe in instead?
I'm sorry, what?
What should I believe in? What should I believe in instead? How about that? That's actually my question.
How about
anything?
Nothing?
I was going to say anything which can adequately demonstrate its truth.
But guys,
I don't like
says that nature abhors a vacuum. You have to have something to fill in that gap.
Are you reading from a script, or did you just have a stroke? Because that was not, you just guised me as not a counter to what I just said. Do you smell pennies right now? What the fuck was that?
Don't be rude.
I found that very rude, what she just did, because you just ignored what I said and just said the thing that, I don't know if you heard that was a good response in Sunday school, but engage with me, the human on the other side of the line, and not whatever person made of straw you think is sitting here.
Well, for one thing, I can't hear everything y'all are saying. I don't know if it's on my end or y'all's, but
call in with a regular.
That's what I think. That's what I think was happening, because there is a bit.
I hope so.
When you or I speak, and there's a third person, there is a bit of a cutoff. So I apologize for that. That might be what's going on here.
Possibly. It's only a problem with theist callers who call in with the web browser. We never have a problem with atheists, and we don't tend to have it as a problem on the phone. So, Elizabeth, just call in with a regular phone line next week, okay?
I am on the web browser.
Yeah, I see that. Call in.
Well, no promises. No promises.
Call in with a regular phone. We won't dox you. We have way more interesting phone numbers in our history than yours. I promise. You won't be the one we would dox, nor would we dox anyone. All right, Elizabeth?
I'd accuse you of it. I know you feel like the equivocating comment was an accusation, but okay.
This was a tease. It was entirely a tease. Thank you. We'll maybe talk to you again soon.
As Christians are very hypersensitive about everything.
I'm just going to drop it there. Great. Fine. I feel like that was a reference to a show in the past, and that she may have been revealing that entire thing was a troll. If you are interested in calling and pretending to be a theist in the future, just don't. I'd prefer that. I realize with that final statement that she probably was revealing herself to have been the same troll last time talking about hypersensitivity. And I'm sorry if I fell for it, but Jesus fucking Christ, engage with the person on the other side and not whatever straw man. And if you didn't hear what I said, don't respond to something else. Ask me to repeat myself. Jesus Christ. Aron and I, if the mods would put in the live chat where we're headed over to Aron's channel, and we're going to be reading the Book of Mormon with some special guests, presuming that we're still on. That will include my good friend, the YouTuber, Jesus Christ. That's right. Jesus Christ will be reading the Book of Mormon with us, and that will be starting shortly. Aron, anything else you want to mention, plug, tell the people while you have the captive audience?
No. I got nothing to promote but my Patreon, because I do activism full time, and I need all the help I can get. I am not a rich guy, so patreon.com/ARONRA. Thank you very much.
Hell yeah! All right, we'll see you all. Let's see, no hang up on Wednesday. Yes, transatlantic call-in show on Thanksgiving for anybody who is doing anything on Thanksgiving. That seems to be the case. And then next week we launch a bunch of new shows. So it'll be 5 days in a row. You'll have the Sunday show, then Skeptalk, then HOSTility, then the Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty, and transatlantic call-in show. So we'll see you all back here soon. And please head on over with us to Joseph's Myth with Aron Ra and Jimmy Snow, a match made in heaven. Good night, everybody.